All right. Well, now that we've talked about the disparity in talent, let's talk about the disparity in booking that was AEW. What was this week? November 5th? AEW Dynamite
Yes,
Wednesday night.
I believe so.
If it had been Tuesday, I would say the loud sound that you heard was not the plane crash in Louisville. It was Tony Khan hitting the wall in Houston. But Jesus, they open up with Tony Schiavone in the ring. And of course, he pulled the costume deal with Paige and Samoa Joe last week. And we said, well, Joe ought to be mad at Tony. So here comes Joe and Hobbs and Shapoopy. And guess what? Joe's mad at Tony for helping the old switcheroo last week. But Joe is so good. The ominous tone, the delivery, the arrogance of his voice when he's being a heel. Consequences, actions have consequences, Tony, and consequences have come for you. He's a diamond in the middle of this turd. But still, he's the guy that's just turned heel on the world champion and is challenging at the next pay-per-view for the title again after the babyface champion beat him clean the first time. But nevertheless, he's still, I understand again, having Hobbs, because Hobbs is a project that you could mold still. But with the 6-man title thing and Shibata's there for no reason, and then they have the fake security come in, acting fakely, trying to keep Joe from killing Tony Schiavone. Why not teach these guys? Why not walk through it with them and say, don't act like idiots with your waving your arms in the air with your slack-jawed expressions. No. Act like you're... So then here comes Paige when they all start to attack. And by the way, now Paige has old Sockface on commentary calling it the men's world title. Like we couldn't differentiate with Paige as champion. He might be right.
Danielson did it too.
Well, of course, because they're Paige's buddies, and this is a thing that Paige is doing, I guess, to reinforce that he is indeed male. And at some point, they're going to start calling it a human world title. So Paige comes out there, but the heels are still ready to attack. But here comes Eddie Kingston and Hook. This is the world title program. What I said about Shibata goes double for Hook and Kingston. And then the heels bailed out for mid-carders coming to back Paige up. Paige cuts the same promo, growly voice, and then Hook takes the microphone and challenges him for a 6-man tag team title match later on in the show. And Joe, this made Joe mad. And he channeled Ric Flair and agreed to it. And Tony Khan made it official in 5 seconds. So this is the way they're building the world title match. And comments, thoughts, suggestions, recipes?
Yeah, I mean, again, the commentators were dancing around what was clearly Adam Page working with Tony Schiavone, collusion, to trick Samoa Joe last week. Because how would they have Tony Schiavone's voice?
Yeah.
Ready to go? Beyond that small little fact. Yeah, I mean, it was all right, I guess. I'm sick of Adam Page. I know I may be amongst AEW washers. Amongst AEW viewers, I'll say
not
like
many
that.
of those AEW folks are washers.
I swear to God, every week now someone sends a photo of like, here's some AEW fan busted for some nefarious thing, and you always know it's an AEW fan because they're wearing the AEW jacket or something. But yeah, I just thought that was the thing that's ridiculous. The fact that in this whole world of this angle, Tony Schiavone was in cahoots, and he got off easy.
Well, we all like to get off easy. But anyway, so after they started with this segment, the first match on the program, here comes Pockets. Every week now that he's back from whatever rock that he was hiding under, it's the first thing you see. How is anybody supposed to take this program seriously? That's a rhetorical question. And it's a blood and guts advantage match. But it not just the only one, they're going to have 2 out of 3. Actually, they're going to have 3. And it goes into Collision too. And now they're doing blood and guts with the women on TV and then the men on TV. But then the pay-per-view is different than the blood and guts. Is this what help me try to keep all this straight?
I believe Blood and Guts is exclusive to Dynamite. The pay-per-view will be Full Gear. The big thing we know right now is it'll be the national title determined in the Casino something. But I don't think there's War Games. I don't think there's a War Games there, though.
Pockets and Claudio. Well, Blood and Guts is War Games without the cage and the talent. Pockets and Claudio, the match starts on the floor before the bell with Pockets doing 2 dives in a row. So with entrances, this went over 15 minutes, and then the random Walmart stock boy was competitive the whole way with the Giant until finally Claudio won with a big uppercut, 1, 2, 3. And then we go to the Women's Tag Team Championship tournament, because while we are having the advantage matches for the Blood and Guts, we are having the Women's Tag Team Championship tournament, which will run at least 2 and possibly past the conclusion of the new national championship that will be decided by a Casino Gauntlet Battle Royal. Right?
I don't know when it ends, actually. Maybe, yeah.
Mercedes Moon and Athena against Willow Nightingale and Harley Cameron. And after about 15 minutes, the baby faces won. They upset Mercedes Moon and Athena. Of course, they beat Athena. And Billy Starks, that girl, is back, and Statlander was running around interfering and la. But that's to get Mercedes out of the tournament so she doesn't have to do any jobs, because she ain't going to. And Brian, we were at 9 o'clock. I'm not shitting you. That's the first hour, was the 6-man setup, Claudio and Pockets, and a girls' tag team match. And that's when Tony Schiavone was back in the ring to announce the Casino Gauntlet match that will take place at the pay-per-view, with the winner being the new national champion, because it's been 40 years since the national title was on this network. And we covered earlier in the program the various reasons why this whole thing is stupid. But at that point, Tony introduces the Hurt Syndicate. And they come out, and the only interesting thing that they had to do in this segment was potentially raise the question of what would happen if Shelton had to face Bobby. And all MVP said they'll do what's best for business. And then the music played, and Ricochet and the fucking Stooges came out. And MVP had already called it the international title, because they can't even keep them all straight. And that's they had him plug Paul Orndorff, Jack Briscoe, Dusty Rhodes, Wahoo, Nikita as the former champions. And because they just Wikipedia'd that, Briscoe actually was never. They just put the thing on Briscoe for him to drop it to somebody at the start of it in the early 80s. But nevertheless, then Ricochet and his Stooges come out wearing the suits and the ugly robes, and the fans are hoot booing him. Where they're not listening, they're either just booing over him because it's fun, because they don't give a shit, or they're chanting "shut the fuck up." But it's not like that this is any type of money drawing heat. It's let's amuse ourselves by just shouting his putts down heat. Do you think they can tell the difference over there?
No.
And he talks like an indie guy as well as working like one. And he's the talent on this team. I think he was better off in the WWE where he could be hidden. They had him do his fancy shit. He didn't get to talk very much because the more that you listen to him and learn of what is apparently his real personality, the more that even the AEW fans genuinely just don't fucking like him. And MVP cut him off at the end when he was droning on and fired up and got the fans back into it a little bit, but nobody cares about these heels. So I don't want Lashley and Benjamin to face each other in the tournament because that would hurt their image, but I would like more of the tease that they might, because at least it'd be something different instead of more with these fucking clowns. Help me.
Now, this was the worst I've ever seen or heard Ricochet on the microphone. You know, FTR, I think some of the booing with them is just based on the way they've been booked for a while and people don't want to hear them anymore. Maybe some of Dax. But with Ricochet, just listen to him. Like, you can't take him seriously. And I thought it became a bit much at the end. The intrigue, like you said, was the idea, what happens if Bobby wrestles Shelton?
Well, maybe they'll tell us next week more about it. But you know, at this point, Brian, in the show, like I said, we're past 9 o'clock, and I'm starting to get sleepy. But not even because of the bad programming, but because I, like a good little boy, every night before I lay my weary head down to sleep, I get down at the foot of the bed and I say my prayers, and then I take my CBD gummies from Cornbread Hemp, and that helps me sleep like a baby. Because CBD gummies are better for your physical and mental wellness than if you don't take them, because then you're just, well, fuck, you're leaving yourself open to just random chance, aren't you? Brian, I know every night before you lay your weary head down on your desk there where you sleep, because you're at work 24 hours a day, you take your CBD gummies and that hard desk feels like a soft pillow.
I don't sleep on my desk, not even at my desk, but I could tell you that Suzanne, she is a big fan of the CBD gummies. She said she gets a good night's sleep every time she ingests one, chews one, whatever you want to say here. But they are also delicious.
Well, and you don't actually inject them or anything, and they're not suppositories. Now, at first there was some.
Not what I said.
Oh, you said ingest, not inject, but
ingest.
There was some confusion at first with some people. They are not suppositories. Now, some people had to find this out the hard way, but many other people know you just eat them like a gummy. But here's the thing: the Cornbread Hemp gummies or any other Cornbread Hemp products at cornbreadhemp.com. Made right here in Louisville, Kentucky. We're all in a heap of shit here coming up soon if Mitch McConnell and the rest of these assholes in Congress get their way. So stock up while you can, because Mitch McConnell is trying to have all hemp products declared illegal, which would put thousands of people out of work in his home state and make people even more miserable than they already are living in today's society. And that's what Mitch McConnell lives off of. How do you think he's lasted this long? Instead of taking blood from virgins, he takes misery from everybody. So if we can keep Mitch McConnell from possibly feeding on our misery, then we can keep our cornbread hemp. So write your congressman, ladies and gentlemen. And in the meantime, head over to cornbreadhemp.com/JCE and use the code JCE at checkout. You're going to save 30% off your first order. And everybody ought to be stocking up on these things right now and putting them down in their root cellars and various places of storage for the time when Mitch McConnell, the Grim Reaper of the Senate, takes all of our hemp products away too, unless you write your congressman. They are formulated to help relieve discomfort, stress, and sleeplessness. Not your congressman. CBD gummies from Cornbread Hemp. Once again, 30% off your first order with the code JCE. That's an easy to remember code, Brian. Would you like me to repeat it?
One more time.
JCE.
Yeah.
All righty. Let's go back to this fiasco. Another blood and guts advantage match with Darby Allin against Danny Garcia. Besides the fact that this is the same cast of characters that interacts every goddamn week, at this point, they have made Darby, at least in their universe, a somewhat credible challenger for the world title. And he's had these matches with Moxley. And he's going to go 15 minutes with Danny Garcia, who, again, I'm sure he's a nice kid that they like, but Jesus H. Christ. So recess lasted about 15 minutes. Then Darby got a sharpshooter and Garcia tapped. And then Pac came in and beat up Darby, but Pockets came in and hit Pac with 13 fake punches in a row. Pac didn't go down. Wheeler came in and stopped somebody, Pockets. Lots more fake punches. Here came Roderick Strong. Dick the Boozer came in. Kyle O'Reilly came out. And suddenly Roddy just jumped over a couple of people and nailed Moxley, and the heels ran off. When did they have the last TV show where they didn't do what I just described, at least at one point, if not multiple points in the show, with the same people?
Yeah, I don't know.
You know, somebody took me up on that. I said, somebody ought to do the research on what percentage of matches in AEW are like just regular matches and what percentage are multiple man matches. And only they did the numbers and considered tag matches part of multiple man matches, but it was like 65-35 for the multi-man matches. So then,
just one last thing about that.
Yes.
Garcia's not picked up any muscle. He doesn't look like a wrestler. I don't care how good technically he is to some people, and I've never really seen any of the growth there or anything. He doesn't look imposing in any way. And if you tune into the show around 9 o'clock and that's what you see, Darby can get away with it because he's a gimmick.
He's a gimmick.
But Daniel Garcia, it stands out. That looks as indie as anything. Just doesn't look like a wrestler.
Well, there's nothing there. There's no presentation. There's no personality. There's no promo. There's no look. There's no charisma. It's a guy doing moves. Are you ready for the week's acting performance from inside the actor's studio, along with a creative helping of Tony's scintillating booking? Do you remember one of the Clash of Champions when Baba sent his top Japanese guys over, are supposed to have a match on the TV special, and they did a swerve angle in WCW, it's like 91 or whatever, and locked them in the dressing room.
That was 89.
And replaced them.
That was 89.
89, that's right.
Yeah.
Yes.
I think it was going to be like Michael Hayes, Sting, and the Junkyard Dog against, was it the Road Warriors and Tenru? I forget exactly what it was, but it was something like that.
Well, it ended up that's why Baba never worked with him again, right? He was so insulted. Yeah. Well, this time, Bro Dildo got locked in the locker room. Bandito and Brody King so FTR's doing a promo in the ring, and there's no Stokely. And they're out there, they're in t-shirts and sweatpants. They've given up. They just look like two guys now. And they're cutting a promo saying they're the number one contenders for the tag team title. And they call out Bandito and Brody King, the champions, and they play the music, but they don't come. And suddenly we go to the back with the camera and Renee Moxley Good with Stokely in front of the locker room that says Brodito locker room. And there's somebody pounding on the other side of the door, and Stokely saying, well, I don't know, they can't be. I don't know. What the fuck? So they've got the camera standing by where these people have been locked in the fucking room. And they go back to show it. And then they come back to the ring, and Dax is, I'm so upset that they can't be out here. And then Bandito's family, including the grandmother, that apparently they've done another angle with at some point, is sitting ringside, and he cuts the heel promo on them. And it wasn't Lawler and Stu and Helen, was it? It's so fake, and it's not good material, and it goes on too long. And Granny and the family have varying expressions. One of them, I guess Bandito's brother, is wearing a mask. And well,
he's a wrestler.
Well, whatever.
That's Gravity.
Are you serious?
That's Gravity. FTR beat up Gravity here.
Well, at least they did better than Isaac Newton did. But the whole thing doesn't come together. And I don't know if he was supposed to show it or not, because it's kind of a heelish thing. But Dax had the Spanish that he was speaking to Granny written on the palm of his hand. Did you see that?
I thought that was a nice touch, actually. I thought that was good.
Well, if it was intentional, I don't know.
Oh, it had to be. It had to be.
Well, you never know with this fucking show. And so then he says, give me a little kiss in Spanish, and he leans over, and she's supposed to slap him, but the woman has to be 85. And she kind of flicked her hand and tapped him, and he kind of sold it, and the people got it enough to get with it. But then the brother jumps the rail, and they have a fake fight. And while this is going on, they go back to the video of Stokely in front of the door, but he's there for 2 seconds, and Brody King's fist comes through the door and grabs Stokely, and he gets free and runs off. And then he runs out to the ring, and the baby faces are following him, and they run the heels off. It's all so fucking fake, isn't it? Just why?
As someone married to a Latina, I think the most realistic thing was the idea that FTR were threatening this old Latina woman and some other women behind them, and they weren't scared at all. They were having a great time. They were smiling. They didn't seem bothered. I don't know why Gravity jumped the rail. It didn't seem like Grandma was bothered at all.
No, she was doing good.
She didn't have any problem at all.
And by the way, the door was hollow too. It was not just a hollow door. I understand that many doors these days are not solid, but it was like a drywall door that he could put his fist through, both sides of it hollow in the middle, but the sides of it were only arena doors are not made out of balsa wood or drywall. I'm sorry.
Well, at least they got away from making fake rooms. Now they just do doors.
Ugh.
Are you excited for Brodito versus FTR?
No, I'm not. Because if you want to see a match, by the time they get finished promoting it, you've changed your mind.
Did you see the thing backstage with Jurassic Express?
Oh, I skip all the backstage stuff because if I started breaking that down and how phony and bad acting it is, it'd take me forever. But what did they do?
Well, they were walking towards the camera doing a promo. Jack Perry still can't talk in a realistic way. But now he's kind of dressed almost like if Indiana Jones joined Greenpeace. And he took out his knife and they stabbed a $100 bill and left it there. Because they're about to have this big money match against the Bucks.
Oh, yeah, because Don Fallis is trying to get the Bucks to join his family of 18. Jesus Christ. I mean, I'm surprised he didn't fuck the Octomom. But they're broke. So they need all this money, but every time they get a chance at winning the money, they lose. But now there's going to be a $1 million, and nobody believed a $1 million tag match, $400,000 battle royal. What? That's why I say he's just doing the same thing over and over, Tony. He's lost it. He's hit the wall. He can't get out of it. It's not a fun place to be.
See, the funny thing is, if you're an AEW fan defending it, your only defense is, man, how could it be $1 million? I didn't believe it when it was 500,000. Now it's $1 million. The only defense is, well, the owner's a moron. And he just spends money like crazy. Of course it would be $1 million. Why wouldn't you believe this? This is not Vince McMahon. This guy will throw money out the window.
And besides that,
that's the only defense. That's the only defense.
the Buckaroos were so happy to spread the publicity when they got the multi-million-dollar contracts, became the highest paid tag team of all time from this guy. And that was only a couple of years ago, but now they're broke. And Nick of all people, these right-wing religious simpletons lost $500,000 at a casino. But Nicky doesn't even know how to play fucking blackjack. It's just ridiculous.
Well, that's the tag team division.
So then another blood and guts advantage match came up, but this time on the women's side. Megan Brain versus Mina Mellons. And that ended up with all 8 or 10 or however many girls going to be in this thing, all in a schmoz. You couldn't, half of them street clothes. You couldn't keep track of who was on whose side. And it was all to plug the girls' garbage match that I guess is coming up at, what is that, next week? They have the girls' garbage and then the men's division garbage the following week, and then the pay-per-view the week after that.
Oh, boy.
What about if they take one of the men's blood and guts teams and put it against the women's and vice versa? Would that make it more interesting?
Yes, actually it would. Have there ever been as many War Games matches with people that don't belong in a War Games match? Just makeshift groups put together with no main eventers. It's terrible.
And they're actually going to do the War Games at Survivor Series, right?
Right. Although Tony, I think, does it more in line with the traditional way with a roof and, WWE.
No, blood and guts is the all over the building shit.
No, there have been people that have gone off the roof, I think. I think they have a roof in Blood and Guts.
No, that's the fucking other kind of cage thing they do.
No, it's Blood and Guts.
I thought the football field.
Yeah.
The football field fuckery. The arena, Anarchy in the Arena, Stadium Stampede, that's that match. Okay, the Blood and Guts is, so they're going to have, and goddamn it, is the WWE going to have a women's War Games?
You know it. Equality.
Oh, Christ. So 4 of them.
Anything you could do, I could also do on the same show.
In November, we used to put big matches on TV to increase the ratings. Now they're trying to kill the business in November. 4 of them, 2 women, 2 men. I guarantee you 3 of them are going to be the shits. We'll see if it's a clean sweep. It could be. So then we're ready for our main event, Brian. The 6-man tag team championship with Samoa Joe, Hobbs, and Poopy against Page and Kingston and Hook. And we knew they were going to run over because the bell started 6 minutes left in regulation time. And did you do the count on the opening salvo from Hangnail, Page, and Shapoopy?
No.
They started by locking up, and Page hit Shapoopy with 28 fake-looking forearms. Not only did he not even go to a knee, but they immediately went out of that into a running spot. Do you know how much money you would have had to pay any babyface in the wrestling business 40 years ago to tell them, okay, I want you to hit the fucking heel in the face 28 times and then shoot him off? The guy would have given his notice. What the fuck? So they did all the same shit they usually do. And for some reason, they're intent on having Hook involved in this where people are going to just laugh at him because he so obviously doesn't belong. And then about 5 minutes into the overrun, Hobbs took Page to the stage. That sounded like I was trying to do a limerick there, didn't it? Hobbs takes Hangnail up onto the stage and power slams him off the stage through a table to the floor so that he's there for the rest of the fucking night. And back in the ring, Hobbs puts Hook in the torture rack badly, sideways, not like Luger would upside down. And Hook tapped out. And that was it. So they're building in, 2 weeks, 3 weeks, a world title match. And the world champion and the top challenger were on opposite sides of this 6-man. And they finished it with the challenger not getting the win and the champion laying in the goddamn orchestra pit in the back of the arena. Was that about what happened?
Yeah. It's weird with Hook. There was a time where he was the best protected person in AEW, you could argue. Fans were chanting for him. He didn't do anything. It was they were just into the character. Now we've seen it. And like you said, he doesn't belong in there with...
Now, well, that's the problem is now we've seen it. It never went anywhere.
Yeah.
And now he's just this kind of skinny kid with a funny haircut standing next to these big guys, and nobody believes it. But Tony's thing, I'll say this and I'll be done. Tony's thing is he thinks that most people or the majority of people think like he does, that once somebody is over in his mind, oh, he's over now, so then he can go away for 6 months. And then when he comes back, we'll just mention briefly in passing was something that he did 9 months ago now, and they'll remember it, and they'll be right with it. And everybody's always the same. Nobody ever changes. If Okada was over to him 5 years ago, then he'll be over now, even though Okada's obviously crippled, broke down, unmotivated, don't give a shit, whatever his problem is. He can't see it. He doesn't see that anything changes and that he thinks everybody will remember everything, no matter how long ago it was. And there are some things that qualify for that.
Maybe they would.
And every move he ever made is not one of them.
And maybe they would if he was actually good at writing TV. Instead of just throwing things against the wall and then booking half the things to happen on Saturday.
Good point.
Well, that was the briefest Dynamite review I think we've ever done.
There's nothing to it anymore. And I mean,
well, you said it earlier when I never even thought of it just in that context. I think it was the Moxley Darby post-match stuff and the Garcia match. It's the same people interacting this way. What'd you say? When was the last episode they didn't do this? I don't know. They've been doing this forever. The same things keep happening and the roster doesn't grow. It's the same people doing them over and over and over again.
And you mentioned this earlier, and I don't even know if I gave you a full answer, but the roster ain't going to grow because there's nobody left. He's raided all the other international companies. Everybody that's worth a shit in the United States is tied up. He blew a number of big signings that he was able to do previously when all those loopholes weren't closed and there were guys he could get. And either it didn't work out like with Punk, or it at some points he would bring people, we've talked about it, where you would think, okay, this guy could make a difference and show up to big fanfare, Edge. And he makes people that are stars already not stars anymore and just part of the crew within weeks. So I don't know what else different they're going to. If this was a territory anywhere in wrestling, anywhere before the last 20 years or so, the promoter would have said, I'm going to fire the booker and I'm going to get a new booker that's going to bring in almost a completely different crew. And he would fire the booker and he would hire another booker and he would say, this guy, and this guy are my guys. They're protected. You can't get rid of them. Otherwise, draw me some money. And the whole roster would change. The whole presentation would change. And it would look completely different except for those loyal, local over guys that the promoter didn't want to get rid of. And that made it look completely different. And then you could revitalize something. That's not possible here because Tony won't get anybody else to book. I don't know who it would be if he did. And there's no way to change the roster. There's nobody else.
Well, those were the ratings. AEW Dynamite.
Yeah. And the ratings are all late also, and they're all down. And it's the beginning of the end.